Hello everybody and welcome to Nathan on Shuffle and to my latest episode of New Album Spotlight, the show where I put the spotlight on an album in progressive rock or a related genre that I think you guys will like if you have similar musical taste to me. I love recommending music, it's one of my favorite things to do on the channel, and it's so fun to find some really cool releases that I'm able to talk about here. So I have a good one today from a band that I've loved for quite some time. This is the Decemberists and their new album As It Ever Was, So It Will Be Again, which just came out this past Friday. They were a band that was founded in Portland in the US in 2000 and have had quite a storied career over this time period, 24 years in existence. They dabble in progressive rock, I'd say. They're not full-fledged progressive rock band, but a lot of people that love prog love them, especially prog folk kind of stuff, or who like bands like Jethro Tull, obviously. But they probably lean more towards the indie rock side of the coin. Nothing's too complex or crazy or out there, but they do have their moments. They do have tracks and albums that really lean into this more prog aesthetic. For me, my entry point for them was The Hazards of Love, which came out in 2009, which is a concept album and probably their most proggy work, all told. That tells this really dark and disturbing tale, but set to some really cool folk music and has some prog flourishes and touchstones as it moves and weaves and tells that story. I also really love the previous album from that one, The Crane Wife from 2006, which I think has some excellent progressive pieces along with their typical indie folk aesthetic as well. And I also really love The King Is Dead, 2011's album, that showed the more country folk side of the band, much more simple songs, but just beautifully composed, well written, just great storytelling from Colin Malloy, and just some wonderful, catchy tracks that I just really love. So that's my history with them. I've always been interested in what they've done. Their past couple records haven't grabbed me quite as much as their previous ones did. I'll Be Your Girl from 2018, their previous record just wasn't really for me. I've listened to it a couple times, but it hasn't stuck. But I really do love this new album. It's been 6 years in the making, 6 years since I'll Be Your Girl, and it's a big sprawling project. It's meant to be like a double album, and it has a lot of different tracks to it. And what I really appreciate is the variety that's on board here. There's a lot of cool, catchy, folky tunes. There's some stuff that's more narratively driven, stuff that leans into their more folky aesthetic, stuff that adds a little bit of a jazz flavor, stuff that adds a poppier aesthetic. And then they end with a fairly lengthy, proggy tune that brings that stamp onto their music that they were known for back in the Hazards of Love days. So it's a cool smattering of tracks, and if you like cool, catchy indie rock with a folk flavor, I think this is really going to be up your street like it is for me. Burial Ground starts the album on a great note, a catchy, folksy tune. Feels like it's akin to like some sunny 60s pop. I love the trumpet solo and sweet harmonies. I really like the sound palette that they have here. They add these extra instruments that add a lot of variety and interest into their music. Some horns, some accordion, some keyboard flourishes that make this just beyond just your standard indie rock, and I really appreciate them for that. Oh No is another fun, catchy track that slinks along in an almost surf rock style vibe with horns and almost a bit of a Latin flavor in the percussion. Just a really cool, fun, classic track from the band that I absolutely love. The Reapers have a bit of a shuffle beat with some light flute and gives a bit of a jazzy vibe that combines with this macabre lyric. Really fun. Long White Veil has a bit of a folk and country vibe with some slide guitar. Maybe could fit on The King Is Dead. Great example of catchy, fun music, but with this darker subject matter. That's what they're really known for me at least, is these really catchy, fun songs with great hooks and memorable melodies. But if you look into the lyrics and the stories that they're talking about, it's really dark and macabre and just really disturbed in a lot of ways. And I think it's fun how they juxtapose these two things that you seemingly wouldn't think would fit together, but it really works in this fantastic way. William Fitzwilliam is another simple folk song with acoustic guitar and vocals, adding just a bit of that slide guitar sound. Don't Go to the Woods is another dark, haunting, folky type track with a tasteful accordion solo. I love All I Want Is You, gentle folk song with plucked guitar and light horns. I really like when they lay back into these more gentle tracks. America Made Me is a jaunty track with some piano and vocals, a fun bouncy pop type feel, like the upbeat 60s sunny pop feel to it. Good contrast to some of the more somber folky tunes that lead up to it. Tell Me What's on Your Mind has an uber cool bass line and jazzy drumming. Love the groove on this. Some great 70s organ really grounds this throughout the track and has a bluesy vibe. I'm almost reminded of something by like The Doors. Never Satisfied is a grand sweeping countrified track with great vocals and slide guitar. In another world, this could have been a really nice, majestic closing to the album, but then we get the big 20-minute epic track that brings the prog flavor. Joan in the Garden starts slow and methodical with some repeating guitars, some heavenly atmospherics and great vocal textures, almost hymn-like as it begins in this sort of vein. And then we get into a more Pink Floyd type atmospheric instrumental with these chiming bells and repeating sounds that almost sounds like Wish You Were Here era Pink Floyd. Builds an intensity as it continues and continues. Then we get halfway through this really drony atmospheric section for about 6 minutes. A lot of different soundscapes and textures and sound effects and sound design. Not totally my thing, if I'm being honest, because my mind tends to wander during these type sections, but I can see if you're really into this, that this could be really interesting to you. And it is a really interesting endeavor into something a bit different on the record that doesn't sound like anything that came before it. So I respect it for the variety aspect, and I think it really adds to the texture of this extended epic piece. But if I'm talking my own personal preference, it goes on a bit too long. Maybe if it was shortened like in half, that might have been more effective for me at least. But then once we get past this section, we get into a really killer rock riff about 60 minutes into the track, leading to the high octane finale that really adds the prog flourishes with some great proggy synth soloing. Really fantastic ending to the record. This is where you get the biggest, most proggy section of the whole record, and it's a really satisfying epic conclusion to what's been a really excellent record by the band. I think it really runs the gamut towards all the sounds that they're known for. So this is a good almost culmination of their career and everything that they've done up to this point. It has a bit of that folky flavor that they were really delving into in The King Is Dead. It has a lot of their quirkier, more storytelling type tracks that they were known for in their early career, and then has moments of prog built in, especially in that final epic track that really leans into the Crane Wife and Hazards of Love era, where they were experimenting with these more longer form tracks and these proggier moments. So I think it just really culminates in a great album that showcases the band at their best, showcases everything they're about from their indie rock past. And I just love it and think it's a fun and satisfying listen. So has a bit of everything, so you'll probably find something to latch into no matter what your preferences are if you're a fan of the Decemberists. So I hope you guys will check it out. Let me know if you've heard it and what your impressions are in the comments. I'd be interested to know. I know they're not a totally prog band, but I think they have enough crossover with prog that I think it's worth mentioning on the channel, and it's just a band I really love and want to highlight, so I'm going to talk about them. So thank you guys for joining me. Hopefully you appreciate this review, and I'll hopefully catch you guys in a future episode. Thanks everybody, enjoy the music.